Hanji, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to Water Week. It's been a while. I hope all of you are okay. Last week was obviously a fairly dramatic one. I hope you're all fine, keeping well. Good. So, welcome to Water Week. This is the Atmanirbhar edition of last week tonight. And of course, I'm nowhere near as cool as how John Oliver would ever be. Anyway, so let's begin. Before we start, somebody did mention that the PPT of the last class is not on the Telegram channel. I will make sure that it is updated immediately after this class. The PPT for last week's Water Week would be there. In addition to this, as you would know, there were a lot of questions on what to do since the new dates have been announced. I have made a YouTube video on it. It's on the channel, which goes by my name, so you can have a look at it. And the Polity Prelims program continues. This week we'll finish up things till the Parliament, one video every 2 days, and you should be fine with it. And you have enough time to prepare for it, so that's going on. And in addition to this, there's of course Water Week in the larger context of things. So let's jump right in. For those of you who are here for the very first time, the name is Atish Mathur. The email address is contact@atishmathur.com. This is the Telegram channel. I've put a link on the pinned comment box here, just in case you need to download your PPTs. And for those of you who are interested in getting some courses, it'd be very nice of you if you use my code, gets me food to eat, and I don't look the way I do. All right, so that's the idea behind it. Chalo, let's start. Basic ground rules remain the same. No comments in the comment box unless you're asked or you're facing tech issues, so that I can immediately address them and get the tech team activated on that front. All questions, no matter what they are, whatever they're pertaining to, must always be in the question box. Otherwise, the flow of the class vehemently fails. Okay, so let's start. So finally, things are picking up. The newspapers are talking about things beyond COVID. Slowly but steadily, there is a lot that has happened in the past week. There are things that have happened comprehensively, which sort of give us the opportunity to make sector structures like we've been doing in the previous few Water Weeks. There have also been subtopics which have been very well analyzed, which have been very well spoken about in last week's newspaper. There are certain key concepts which were in news either because of something that happened with them politically or something that happened with them because of, let us say, Harshit, I just mentioned you've just joined. I'll just do that after class. So don't worry. Let me just finish with class now. I'll get back to you on this. Okay. Concepts which have been in the news either for the good reasons, for the bad reasons. For example, Solicitor General of India was in the news for all the bad reasons because there was obviously some heated arguments that were made. Now, everybody got into this deep dive analysis about how Solicitor General works or not. The question is, how much do you really need to know with respect to the exam? So today's class is about that. I'm going to give you context to everything in class. I'll tell you how last week's paper sort of shapes up in the context of this exam. We'll discuss a lot of the things that have to be done. Two very, very important reports have been mentioned. These reports, some of it is important for the pre, some of it is important for the mains, and certain data add-ons which can enrich your answers, get you those additional 1 marks in your mains, are also very nicely mentioned in last week's newspaper. So let's start one by one. Now, a few days ago, I had uploaded my handwritten note on what was in the newspapers broadly from an important point of view. So you would have that handwritten note with you. You can always refer it. Those are the larger context of things which I have shortlisted into what I think is important as far as the exam is concerned, right? So one of the first things I'd like to discuss in a fair amount of detail today is defense. Now, you would remember a few weeks ago, we've spoken about something called the defense procurement policy. Now, this happened a while ago. Right now, in the context of the defense procurement policy and the Indo-China border skirmishes, the larger question of Are we coordinating our armed forces better? Are we equipping our armed forces better? Sort of comes to the fore. So, and there was an editorial on it also. The editorial went into some yellow cheese slice Swedish concept, which very honestly speaking has no relevance to it. And I remember people asking me, sir, I don't eat cheese. Do I need to know this? Now you don't need to know this. The cheese concept is not important. There were very few parts of it which were really that important, and how do you sort of use it in the exam is kind of important, right? And then, of course, as we had discussed this in today's newspaper, also there is an editorial on commercial space flight. And last week also, the world's coolest man, Elon Musk, had successfully privatized commercial space travel. That's the very stepping stone of it. So space, I think, becomes an important sector to evolve and to sort of evaluate. And at this very moment, when I'm at space, I must also tell you something. This is an incredibly proud moment for me, because a lot of you have been, have had a lot of initiative, have truly understood what the essence of what a week is, and the structure that I'm going to discuss with respect to space, the content that I'm going to discuss with space. In fact, that content in the exact same form was sent to me by a student. The student said, "Sir, this is how it is. This is how we've done it. This is how space was in the news, and I thought to put all of it together in one go." That really goes to show that you're understanding. A lot of you are also doing it. A lot of you are sending me your answer structures. A lot of you are sending me your notes to go through, and I am going through them as and when I get time, and I am fully on board with it. But that's so nice to see, so humbling to see that you figured out the crux of it. So I must congratulate that very student. Excellent work done as far as space is concerned. And the content that I'm going to use is deeply inspired, in fact, taken from what the student has itself given. And the content was so good, I did not have to make any specific changes to this. And I said, I'll take your permission for it. And I have taken the student's permission, and I'm going to use the same kind of answer structure that the very student has sort of used. And this is within 1 month of doing what a week. So well done. We'll be looking at subsector evaluations also today. We'll be speaking about contract farming and how contract farming comes to sort of the fore, because there was an amendment and in the form of an ordinance to the Essential Commodities Act, which basically allows for certain items to have been removed from the Essential Commodities Act, and how contract farming essentially would lead to a boost in agricultural productivity. And from a more health perspective, in one of the articles in last week's newspaper, factory farming was mentioned, which is essentially a large-scale production of dairy and a large-scale production of dairy or such farming setups. And that was something which was very, very important. That was done very, very well. So contract farming, in the context of how contract farming became important as a key factor for COVID to sort of prosper, was one of the larger issue. Okay, right. I see a lot of you are telling me there is a lag. Are you facing a tech issue? Are you all facing a tech issue? No. So for those of you who are, just refresh it once a while, because majority of us, we don't have an issue. Possibly could be network connection on your end, which is a slight problem. Okay, so just in case you still have a problem, just drop in a comment here. I'll have the tech team look into it. As far as concepts are concerned, there were some background concepts which come to the fore, and this is something you also have to learn. What you have to learn is, a lot of times things are right in the middle of a political turmoil. Now, what the political turmoil is not essentially needed for this exam. But what are the key terms behind it are often needed. Like, for example, gross value added. So there was an FAQ on Sunday in the Hindi newspaper about what gross value added is and why is it been in the news and what is the larger problem that people have. Now you have to take a minute here and understand that at the most you will get a prelims question on which of the following is an appropriate meaning of gross value added. Will you get a mains question on, do you think gross value added is a better method to estimate national income? You will not get it. You always get definitions of national income accounting. So all that you need to know is, what does it mean? In addition to this, There was also an FAQ on COVID terms. Keep that FAQ with you because you might just have to go through it before the prelims exam. They may just ask you one or two words out of it. It has R naught, it has RT-PCR, it has all the terms given in one line. So keep that with you. That's kind of your term sheet. That's kind of your ready reckoner for the prelims as far as COVID is concerned, right? FPI was in the news, foreign portfolio investment, because Reliance had their rights issue. They essentially sold shares. And it is perhaps the largest subscribed share rights issue in the history of this country. And some of the key people who participated in picking up Reliance's shares were essentially foreign organizations. So FPI becomes in the news. So you need to know what FPI means, what FDI means, what is the difference, and that's important for the prelims exam. Very, very important. Okay. In fact, you would know a lot of foreign corporations have picked up stake. As I said before, Solicitor General was in the news for wrong reasons, for the political reasons. Nobody's going to ask you a question, do you think Solicitor General is political or not? All you need to do is that one page from Lakshmikant that tells you what is the Solicitor General, what does the person do, how is the person appointed, and that's pretty much it. Nobody's going to ask you anything at all. Now, the UN Security Council was in the news primarily because India is now going to become a non-permanent member. Now, this I know seems like a big deal, but this happens all the time. This is not the first time India is going to become one. But yes, if you carefully watch out for the news this week, you will definitely see an editorial on United Nations Security Council reforms, right? So this is something that you should prepare as a one-page note answer for the mains exam. I'll talk more about this towards the end or in next week's What a Week once we have enough newspapers on it, right? In addition to this, again, just very specifically for the pre, you would know that the government has increased minimum support price. Now, you don't need to particularly know on what products have the minimum support prices been increased. You need to know is what is a minimum support price and who decides it. The newspaper clearly says it's the Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs. Clear on this? Right. Now, two reports were also mentioned in a passing phase. I'll cover all of this. Two newspaper reports, two reports are also mentioned in a passing phase. One was very, very important, both for the pre and the mains. State of India's Environment 2020. This is authored by an organization called Center for Science and Environment. You would have often heard of a magazine called Down to Earth, which is also a related magazine to the entire ecosystem. Right? Now, why do you need to know this? Because for the pre, it gives you a list of endangered species. It gives you the state of India's environment. All you need to do are the boxes and the broad tables from that report. These reports are available online for free. Just do the boxes and the tables for the pre. Your current in environment as far as India is sorted. You don't need to do anything else at all, right? And as far as the mains is concerned, you can use some key takeaways from here and talk about as a data point in an environment answer that according to CSE State of India's Environment Report, forest cover in India has significantly shrunk or has increased, whatever the case might be. So do you understand now the utility of State of India's Environment Report? Just the name here. Even if you name drop this report, it gets you a lot of these, brownie points in the answer. Then the Ministry of Statistics and Implementation comes up with something called the Periodic Labour Force Survey. You don't need to know this for the prelims at all. This is only for those who are writing the mains this year, which now happens in January next year. So you need to know this in terms of unemployment has been on the rise, migration-related unemployment has been on the rise. So just just some key takeaways, even if the executive summary of this report is more than enough. But both of these are excellent data points. Clear on this? Now, the third part to it. Some data add-ons which, are not necessarily important as a whole, but they get added to something else. For example, you would remember last week, one of our ferries. Ferries is basically a boat that carries people from one part to another. Aditya is what the ferry is called. It has been shortlisted for an award, the Gustave Eiffel Award. It's India's first solar-powered ferry. Now, yes, from Kerala and all of that. Now the question is, where do you use this? You use this in two parts. One, in a larger answer in the mains on environment, and second, a larger answer in the mains on e-vehicles or e-transportation, and both. So this becomes an example. You can start your answer with this, that very recently an Indian solar-powered vehicle has also been shortlisted for this. And therefore, the Solar Alliance is an exchange of partnership. Ketan, questions in the question box. I'm not going to answer that here, okay? But International Solar Alliance is a cross-country partnership. This is about an environmental impact. That's how it makes a lot of difference. Clear on this? Good. Then you would have heard of the word traffic. Now, this can be confusing because we often see the word traffic in association with vehicular movement. This has nothing to do with vehicular movement. Traffic is actually an independent organization which monitors wildlife trade. Okay, so you can always use this as the data source in your mains exam when you're writing an answer on wildlife in general. Okay, third, in a very small fraction, you would have heard about the DGCA civilian drones policy, which basically means that the Directorate General for Civil Aviation, and we've done aviation in our prior Water Week sessions before, is the regulator for civil aviation in the country. What you would understand out of this is that the Directorate General for Civil Aviation has permitted on a test trial basis to sort of run a feasibility test to see if civilian objects could be transferred by private companies. It basically means your food through Zomato or Swiggy or your couriers through Amazon very soon could be airdropped using drones. Now, I don't know how great it would be because knowing India and knowing Indians as Indians, what we would largely do is take the drone, keep it with us. So that's going to be a problem. So let's see how that works out. Right. Then the next is Payments Infrastructure Development Fund. Again, in isolation, not very important, but so one second. So the civilian drones policy, where do you use this? Where would you use this as an example? Any idea? Where would you use this as an example? E-commerce is one, very good. E-commerce is one. Transportation is one, very good. Transportation is one, very good. Internet of Things, excellent. Excellent. Very good. There you go. Understood this? Yes. Excellent. So you can use it as examples and answers. But would you get a prelims question on this? No. Would you get a prelims question on what Aditya is? No. Clear on this? Will you get a prelims question on what does traffic do? No. It's too micro, it's too small. Next is the Payments Infrastructure Development Fund. This was also mentioned in passing in one of the articles in last week's newspaper. This is essentially being set up by the RBI to promote point of sale transactions. This is essentially to promote transactions that do not require cash. So how would this help? This would obviously help in e-payments. This would also be a more secure form and of course counters black money. So you could use this Payments Infrastructure Development Fund as an example on questions on e-payment, on black money, and related issues, right? So that's something. Lastly, this part. In very specifically, I'm sorry, Ritik, what is that supposed to mean? I don't know. Aap kya keh rahe hain? Anyway, so India's largest groundwater usage. If you've read the newspaper properly enough, you will definitely see in one of the articles it was mentioned that amongst Thank you. So in one of the examples that they mentioned was India is one of the largest consumers of groundwater. In fact, India consumes more groundwater than US and China combined, right? Now, would you get this in the pre? Not really. But yes, one line. Is India the largest groundwater consumer in the world? Yes, you could get a question on that. Second, where would you use this? You would use this as a point on water management, a point on environment, a point on, of course, conservation. Clear on this? ठीक है. And then lastly, SEBI has decided to give an in-principle nod for non-governmental organizations, NGOs, non-profit making organizations, to list themselves on social stock exchanges, which means you could now buy the shares of an NGO. You will not get profit out of it, but yes, you would have ownership. So you would have a way to, influence the NGO in making certain decisions because you are also a stakeholder. Now, where would you use this? Let's say you take a blank page, write e-vehicles on top, keep a right column here and just add Aditya. In a few months from now, in a week from now, whenever, you will see an editorial called an editorial on e-vehicles, right? An editorial on, let us say, the efficacy of e-vehicles. So, write your standard structure on e-vehicles. What are e-vehicles? Why are they important? What is the current legal framework? What are the advantages? How can we solve the challenges? And you have a full answer on e-vehicles. This becomes your introduction. Clear on this? Understood? Yes? Yes? Good. Excellent. That's how. So you will do this for similar things. For example, wildlife preservation. Same, keep a right column here, wildlife preservation. What are the laws? What are the institutions? What are the international documents? What are the problems in India? How do we solve them? And this becomes your data ad. Clear? Same applies for e-payments, same applies for NGOs. So that's how you use data add-ons. So that the next time when you're preparing, you'll have it right in front of you. Oh, this was why it was important. And the reason I'm asking you to do it in a separate right column here is because it allows you to keep a track of the number of times this particular issue, electric vehicles, was in the news. The number of times this particular issue was in the news. Clear on this? All right, excellent. So let's jump right in. Defense. There were only the following key points which were essentially important with respect to the larger defense security issue. It said that in India, we are not able to coordinate our defense policy together, our defense services together, the establishment together. The people who sort of decide to buy weapons versus the people who recruit versus the people who make strategic war decisions. It should all happen from a specific common point for better coordination on the defense front, so that India is more prepared to sort of fight a war. There was an editorial on it, and the editorial essentially had very few important lines. And purposefully, I've just taken those very lines because tomorrow when you read the editorial, you'll be able to sort of have a degree of recollection to this. Okay, so the policy-making apparatus comprising the Department of Military Affairs, DMA, and the Ministry of Defense. Now, Department of Military Affairs is new. This has just been set up in 2020, and I will talk about this today. Don't worry. So, when we say that who are the stakeholders, like for example, when we say education, your stakeholders are teachers, students, and schools. So, when we say defense, who's your stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders, right? So, policy makers, then R&D, and your three services. If you look at it carefully enough, this is one way to actually frame your answer on defense policy, is it not? Policy, R&D, and the three services. This is one very simple way. So if you talk about defense procurement policy will come under the first heading. If we talk about indigenous development and enhancing R&D, it will come under DRDO, will come here. If we talk about one rank, one pension, and we talk about better service benefits, it will come under three services here. Every possible point that you can think of will come in these three headings. So from the editorial itself, you have sort of extracted an answer structure. Now, I can understand that this might be difficult for sometimes for most of us to get right. And I get that part right. It's okay. Doesn't matter. The next slide and the next, I will teach you their own structure on how to go about it. So, what does the editorial talk about? The editorial says there are essentially three sets of people who are involved in effective decision-making policy with respect to defense. The first is the policy-making apparatus comprising of the Department of Military Affairs and Department of Defense. Second, research, and third, the three services. This is your core structure. Now, recently we've set up the Department for Military Affairs and the Chief of Defense Staff to achieve synergy. Okay? The two most important things that we've done is we've set up the Department for Military Affairs as one, and second, we've set up the Chief of Defense Staff as the other to improve policy making in the country. For example, GST comes in. You get the center and the state to sit together so that you're able to, have better policy decisions that can be made. Clear? Now look at the image on your left. This is about the Department of Military Affairs. See how this works. The Department of Military Affairs will look at promotions and posting of senior officers, will look at war wastage so that it has the reserves of three forces. It will be able to conserve the resources that we spend. Third, procurement of ammunition, explosives, air-launched weapons, so certain procurement powers. Major infrastructure projects such as creation of new naval bases. Overseas deployment of warships personnel and aircraft personnel will be a part of this. And they will also look at larger policy decisions on the size and shape and the composition of the army. Clear on this? However, big capital procurements, such as you're buying missiles, you're buying, those helicopters, those big things, that will still be with the Department of Defense. So I hope you understand there is a defense ministry. The defense ministry has certain departments. One of the departments is called the Department of Defense. The other is called the the Department of Military Affairs. So you've created this as a new department. You've created this as a new setup. Clear on this? So this is what has happened. Okay? Now, if you see these two photos in front of you, and I've purposely done that so that you understand this. This is about the Chief of Defense Staff. Okay? Now, just for your understanding purposes, I have given a timeline for you. It is not important for the exam, but this is for you to just get context to this. So you will all have access to the PDFs of this slide. So you can absolutely go through what has been spoken about. Clear? All you need to see is why the Chief of Defense Staff Services is required. To provide a single military point of advice to the government, to bring synergy between three services in planning, procurement, and operational matters, to prioritize inter-service procurements, fourth, to manage country's strategic resources and nuclear arsenal, and fifth, integrate service headquarters with defense ministry and civil military divide, so that decisions are not taken in isolation. Clear on this? Understood? Now see. Just pay a little bit of attention. This will all start making a lot of sense. We want to change the way policy making happens in the context of the defense sector. For that, we have set up a new department under the Defense Ministry called the Department of Military Affairs. Second, we have already done setting up the Chief of Defense Services, the Chief of Defense Staff. Okay. Both of these things have already been done. Now you should have a question. Sir, where would I be using this in the exam? Will you get a question on the powers or the functions of the Chief of Defense Staff in the prelims exam? Think about it and answer. Not at all. Will you be using these as solutions to a larger question in the mains exam on defense or internal security? Yes. Got it? Yes. Why? Because this is too specific. This is too internal. You don't get a question like this. If you've seen previous question papers, you will never ever see a question on internal defense policy. There's also a reason behind this, because the work of the Chief of Defense Staff is still vague. The clear powers have still not been defined. It is still an organization which is taking shape. That is why. Because think about it, what these guys do is also what the PM would be doing, is also what the Cabinet Committee on Security would also have a say in. So everybody comes together. So this is why. Clear on this? Right. Now, are we done with this? Yes. This is something that we are done with. Now, what is being proposed? What is the next step? The next step that we've spoken about is setting up something called theater commands. Setting up something called theater commands. So theater commands is, for example, in the J&K region, have an integrated command which will be ready to strike just in case we are under the threat of war or we want to wage war ourselves, whatever the case might be. So theater commands are basically geographically located inter-services defense centers which can be always prepared and ready, and their only task is to be war ready. That's all that they're supposed to do. So it creates a sense of focus, right? So one of those things. Okay. Just for example, you would have clear on this? Yes or no? Is there a problem? Yes? Okay. Clear? क्या कर रहे हो भाई तुम लोग? Namo ye. So what is this? What is happening, guys? Yeah, like a standby force. Yeah, like have a dedicated setup, a dedicated team right here. Okay. सपोज ये JNK बॉर्डर है, JNK बॉर्डर में हमको पता है कि थोड़ा इनकर्जन होता है, वॉर कभी भी हो सकती है, तो एक टीम रखेंगे हम. देयर विल बी ए थिएटर का परमानेंट कमांड ऑफ द आर्मी. जैसे रेलवेज में नहीं होता नॉर्दर्न रेलवे, सदर्न रेलवे, ईस्टर्न रेलवे, वेस्टर्न रेलवेज, वैसे ही परमानेंट कमांड ऑफ द आर्मी whose only job is going to be ready for war in JNK और कोई काम नहीं. Clear on this? Okay, right? All right. Across the board, inter-services. That's the plan. Again, it is just being proposed. We do not have a single theater command at the moment. This is just an idea. So till the time we don't get it, it's just the idea of setting up a dedicated terminal, a dedicated establishment across all the vulnerable points in this country. Okay? Yes. Securing India by war and warlike situation. Absolutely. Okay? Theater command is just an idea, guys. Yes, you can. That's the whole idea, that China has done it. China has been going about it. So why don't we go about it? Okay. Again, it is just an idea at the moment. The idea is to have multiple forces together कि हाँ भाई JNK में Air Force भी लगेगा, Army भी लगेगा. So we should definitely have the Air Force and the Army, one particular division clearly focusing कि वहाँ पे होना चाहिए. ठीक है? Understood? Clear? We have an operational command in Andaman. We don't have a theater command in Andaman. No. A theater command, a fully functional theater command is not there. And Andaman में जो है, it's largely with the Navy. It's not a multi-services arm. Clear on this? समझ में आया? Okay? Yeah. This is just an idea. Don't pounce on the idea. It's just an idea. अभी नया है ये. ठीक है? Clear? Andaman में predominantly Navy है. The larger idea is to have a tri-services quick action. Yes, as Nitin clearly says it. ठीक है? Understood this? Yes. All right. ठीक. Ab, how do I prepare one consolidated note that will help me get through the pre and the mains on anything and everything to do with defense? That's the important part. Now, you will obviously keep a right column separate. Now see, in the mains exam, you would get a larger question on examine the defense organizational policy or organization of the armed forces is crucial to internal security of India. इस तरह से question है. ठीक है, तो introduction, some data on the armed forces. We have one of the largest volunteer armies in the world. We are one of the highest, we spend one of the highest in the world when it comes to defense expenditure. Not the highest, one of the highest. If you want to, you can go back and reference the defense procurement procedure video that we've spoken about, right? So your intro is taken care of. Just 2 lines. Okay, clear on this? Now, divide your mains answer, your consolidated note into 3 parts: management and coordination, equipment and capacity, and recruitment. If you notice carefully, this is nothing but policy making, this is research and development, and this is the 3 forces. Each of these will have points. What is the current setup? Where is the problem? What is the current setup? Where is the problem? What is the current setup? Where is the problem? Right? And in conclusion, one by one, you can write the solutions. So all the drama that we discussed in the last 10 minutes is essentially 2 points in the conclusion. Recent developments such as the Department of Military Affairs and setting up the CDS post and the possibility of having a theater command are good steps towards the overall synergy between the armed forces. Ban gaye points? Clear? Anything and everything that you would ever see in the newspapers from today till the end of the next year will always be under these headings. Always be under these headings. Correct? So wo yahan pe aa gaya. ठीक है? Now keep the right column empty. Here you can always divide it into parts if you want to. Now, Pratisha, let me finish. I'm coming to that only. That's what the right column is about. So guys, questions in the question box. Unless not required, do not comment. It breaks the flow of the class. Is that clear, everyone? Right? Yeah. Now, you divide it into 2 parts. Okay. First part, defense exercises. वो आपको साल के एंड में 365 में मिल जाएंगे या न्यूज़पेपर में आएंगे, कट यहाँ लिख देना. दूसरा, डिफेंस एक्विजिशंस, है ना? वो मिसाइल के बारे में नहीं पूछता है कि मिसाइल इधर से इधर जाएगा, कितना दूर जाएगा, सरफेस टू एयर, एयर टू सरफेस, व्हाट आर द मेजर मिसाइल्स वी हैव एक्वायर्ड, ये सब नहीं आता. यू गेट दीस क्वेश्चंस लाइक दिस इन द प्री, सो जस्ट कीप देम हियर. क्लियर? अंडरस्टूड दिस नाउ? अंडरस्टूड दिस? बस डन. पूरा का पूरा डिफेंस एक जगह. अब समझ में आया? क्लियर ऑन दिस? अंडरस्टूड? या? ऑलराइट, ग्रेट, एक्सेलेंट. हाँ, ओके, ऑलराइट. स्पेस. Now, specifically, space में कुछ नहीं हुआ. And again, I must also tell you, a student shared this. Sir, I have done this for space. Do you think this is right? And it was perfect. It was brilliant. So I'm using this and credits to that student. This is the kind of level I want all of you to achieve. This is 1 month of work. This is just 1 month of getting it right. देखो, इलॉन मस्क ने रॉकेट भेजा, उससे हमको क्या फर्क पड़ा? कुछ. बट द लार्जर आइडिया इज स्पेस इज ऑल्सो एन इंडस्ट्री. It's not just about government sending their own rockets because that's just too cost intensive. So we talk about public-private participation in the sector called space. Yes, that's the basic idea. Correct? Now you should have all of this in one page, right? So let's see. Introduction. You have 3 choices: context, timeline, and legal or regulatory aspects. Context क्या है? SpaceX और NASA ने jointly भेजा है. This disrupts the market. This is groundbreaking. This allows for commercialization of space. Timeline. We are slowly moving towards allowing more and more people to be a part of space exploration and other journeys in space. you can mention we have recently set up Antrix and NSIL. Antrix is the marketing arm of ISRO, and NSIL, the National Space India Limited, is the commercial arm for ISRO. Clear on this? ये दो organizations भी है हमारे पास, New Space India Limited and Antrix. Antrix is the marketing arm and NSIL is the commercial arm. ठीक है? तो Antrix जाके बोलता है कि देखो भाई हमारे पास बहुत सही है, आके why don't you collaborate with us, हमारा रॉकेट लेके जाओ ऊपर, हमारा स्पेस स्टेशन यूज करना चाहिए, आपको स्पेस लॉन्च यूज करना चाहिए, हमारा लॉन्च कैपेसिटी यूज करना चाहिए, हमारा लॉन्च पैड यूज करना चाहिए, सो व्हाई डोंट यू कम यूज इट. ठीक है, clear on this. And NSL is the one which is the core commercial arm. Let's suppose you want to develop a project in collaboration with ISRO. Why not? बिल्कुल करना चाहिए. Yes, अगर BSNL प्राइवेट कंपनीज को इंटरनेट दे सकता है, तो फिर NSIL के थ्रू ISRO, why can't they have partnerships with other people? Yes, let's jointly work together because there's a lot of money involved. Right? Now, why has it been in the news? What is the context? In the Atmanirbhar package, Nirmala Sitharaman had mentioned, she had mentioned about opening up space for public-private participation. And for a very long time, the Space Activities Bill of 2017 is currently pending, and it's a draft version, which also speaks about allowing for space activities. Now, ये draft में है, तो आपको इसके details नहीं करना है. You just need to know the name. That we have something called Space Activities Bill. This can come into the conclusion that have a law. One of the solutions should be to codify the Space Activities Bill so that you have more legislative clarity, so that you know at all given points of time that, boss, this is the regulatory framework that we are going to do this. Okay? Now, अब सीधा सवाल. स्पेस में सबसे 3 इंपॉर्टेंट बात क्या है? पैसा, infrastructure, technology. Clear on this? Paisa, infrastructure, and technology. And those are your headings. So finance, where are the problems? How do you want to solve it? Infrastructure, where are the problems? How do you want to solve it? Technology, where are the problems? How do you want to solve it? Right? Because of the key problems with finance is it's cost intensive. It takes a very long period of time, and you don't know exactly what gaps to fund through viability gap funding. So therefore, public-private partnership makes sense. Though we have an FDI at currently 100% under Make in India route, but at the same time, we need to start getting out there more, right? And telecommunication networks, news networks, broadcasting networks should actually start using government satellites more. If you have enough commercial satellites, for example, let us say 10 new channels have to be launched. If 10 new channels have to be launched, why don't you ask the government कि भाई इसको पूछे यार तू सैटेलाइट लॉन्च कर, हम तेरे सैटेलाइट के थ्रू चैनल हम ट्रांसमिट करेंगे. Is that okay with you? करना चाहिए कि नहीं? That's the idea. That's where NSIL and Antrix comes into place. It's not Antrix, it's Antrix. Okay, right. Next is infrastructure. Problem क्या है? Infrastructure में हमारे पास enough real estate नहीं. Our space technology research is very, very sparsely located, and the industry does not quite get into it because it's a very heavily regulated ecosystem. So that is why now ISRO needs to start mentoring. ISRO में ही आपके पास incubation center होना चाहिए. अगर IIM Bangalore में incubation center हो सकता है, where startups are grown inside IIM Bangalore's campus, if IITs can have incubation centers where research and usable technology can be made inside an IIT and inside an IIM, why not inside an ISRO? Yes, and we should start using our existing infrastructure as much as possible. And private sector should also start getting to use ISRO's facilities for research. Otherwise, it's very expensive to set up individual specific infrastructure capacities. Okay? And you should now make careers in space a cool thing. I mean, think of it. This is actually something I want to talk to you about. Careers in space should be a cool thing. In India, when you say you want to do a pure sciences degree in maths, in physics, people are like, "Arey, tu teacher banega, tu professor banega." What you do not understand and what most people don't understand is some of the most difficult degrees in the world are pure sciences degrees. Because pure sciences is the cutting edge of knowledge and research. Yes. And that is why pure sciences must be promoted. अगर आप मैथ्स में आपने मास्टर्स करा है, PhD करा है, फिजिक्स में करा है, imagine how much value you would bring to the table. Everybody seen Big Bang Theory? Big Bang Theory देखा है? सबका मजाक सबसे ज्यादा मजाक किसका उड़ाते हैं? हार्वर्ड का उड़ाते हैं ना, क्योंकि हार्वर्ड इंजीनियर है. शेल्डन, लेनर्ड, ये सब प्योर साइंसेस वाले हैं. यस, अपना राज इंडियन, वो भी प्योर साइंसेस था. यस, that is enough an explanation to get it right. Clear? An engineer might be going to space. It's the sciences people who send the engineers to space. जब अभी वो ब्लैक होल का डिस्कवरी हुआ था फॉर्मली, हमको एक फोटो भी दिखा था अच्छे से. यस और नॉट? वो एस्ट्रोनॉट वहां पास में जाके सेल्फी नहीं खींच के आया था, वो इधर से बैठ के करा था किसी ने, आफ्टर years and years and years of complex calculations. है ना? ठीक है. Third, technology. If ISRO has come up with a brilliant technology, one must be able to use this. Yes, Utkarsh, Interstellar is a brilliant example. Yes. Though that movie is very complex to understand, and I still haven't fully, by the way. So, technology transfer, right? If ISRO has come up with the technology, why don't you allow other people to also use that technology and get along with it, right? Use it, share it, pay a cost for it, right? Have better intellectual property rights so that even if somebody is using ISRO technology, it's licensed, and ISRO is able to make money out of it. And I mean, look at NASA. Look at the kind of collaborations NASA does. I'll give you a very simple example. This example has nothing to do with space. But I'll give you an example. Just think about it. Heard of a watch brand called Omega? Suna? Yeah. Good. So Omega is a fairly expensive watch brand, and one of the things that they are very popular and they very popularly are known for is a series of watches called the Speedmaster. Yes. Why Speedmaster? What is the marketing? The moon watch. Absolutely. The watch that went to the moon. So Omega had a sponsorship deal with NASA. Omega 1. Omega watches were actually used in the first human flight that went to the moon. And that has a lot of antique value. Look at the branding. Look at the branding. For example, if you ever get a chance, you must visit NASA. And if you do it's no doubt they do excellent work and all of that aside, so does ISRO. But NASA also has a great amount of branding to it. तुम वहां से टी-शर्ट खरीदेगा, कप खरीदेगा, फ्रिज मैग्नेट्स खरीदेगा, कीचेन खरीदेगा, कितना कुछ लेके आएगा, अच्छा लगेगा. It perception matters. Optics matters. Yes or no? It does. फिर ठीक है. Solutions. As you can see, comprehensive law, dedicated regulatory authority, and ease of doing business. Clear? Right in front of you? Understood? Yes? Yeah. Clear on this? Yes. Okay. Now, you can refer to India at 75. And you can also refer to the economic survey, the latest one, to garner points like these. अब जैसे डिफेंस में करा था, स्पेस में भी करो, लाइन बना दो और इधर लिख दो. Recent launches and whatever are important यहाँ ऐड करते जाना, पिछले 1-2 साल में जो भी हुआ. बस इसके बाहर से कुछ आएगा स्पेस में? नहीं आएगा, राइट? क्लोज हो गया स्पेस, खत्म. Done. Space खत्म हो गया, defense खत्म हो गया. Clear on this? Understood? Yeah? Good. Excellent work again for the student who made this. I will repeatedly always say this. Yeah, gross value added. Now, I'm not going to get into the technical details here because I would expect you to sort of go back to your core eco textbooks, है ना? But I'll tell you what the editorial said और ये क्यों है क्या है. I'll just explain this to you. These are some concepts जो आने चाहिए because Solicitor General वगैरह. Solicitor General is basically a legal advisor to the government. Attorney General is somebody who's the Attorney General is somebody who represents the government in court. बस. Both of them are allowed to sit in the parliament, but both of them cannot vote. That's all. ये तीन चीजें आएगी प्री और मेंस में. इसके बियॉन्ड कुछ नहीं चाहिए आपको. कौन अपॉइंट कर रहा है कि वो सही आदमी है खराब आदमी है, कोई नहीं पूछता. 10 चीजें पड़ी और पूछने के लिए. So learn to always figure out what is important and what is not. Yes, एडवाइस देने वाला और वकालत करने वाला साथ में काम करेंगे तो अच्छा लगेगा ना. Okay, so let's look at this cross value added. These are specific lines I've picked up from FAQ, so you should not have a problem with this. Let's quickly look at it. In 2015, in the wake of a comprehensive review of its approach to GDP measurement, India opted to make changes to its compilation of national accounts because India wanted to conform with certain UN standards. Okay, the United Nations System of National Accounts. Systems of National Accounts. Okay, this was defined in 2008. Year is not important. हमने ये क्यों चेंज कर? क्योंकि UN के हम कुछ procedures, protocols follow करना चाहते थे, and we wanted to do this voluntarily. So we changed the way we look at GDP measurement. So what is GBA? It is defined as the value of output minus the value of intermediate consumption and is a measure of the contribution to GDP made by an individual producer, industry or sector. मतलब the value of the output minus intermediate consumption. ये आपका फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोचिंग इंडस्ट्री का भी हो सकता है. कोचिंग इंडस्ट्री का एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं. यू एंड आई आर अ पार्ट ऑफ इट. यू आर अ कंज्यूमर. आई एम अ रिटेलर, राइट? So if I say what is the gross value added for the coaching sector in this country, क्या हुआ? सर्विस प्रोवाइडर है, सेक्टर तो है ये. Yes or no? So total output minus intermediate consumption. Can anyone tell me what the word intermediate consumption means? Inputs. Very good. Inputs. Own consumption. Inputs. Correct. कि मेरा इंटरनेट का खर्चा इसमें नहीं ऐड होगा, कि मैंने इसमें अपना इंटरनेट, बिजली, खाना पीना, ये जो बहुत सुंदर टी शर्ट दे रखी है जो हमें कंपलसरी है पहनना बिकॉज आर्टिकल 21 डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट, है ना? तो वो बॉर्डर टी शर्ट, अमेजिंग टी शर्ट, है ना? एंड जैसे किसी बहुत बड़े आदमी ने कहा, बिना टी शर्ट के पढ़ाने का भी मजा अलग है ना? ठीक है. So yeah, that's pretty much it. ठीक है. So that's how it works. You can do it for an individual, you can do it for an industry, you can do it for an entire sector, you can do this for the country, it doesn't matter. It's the rupee value of goods and services produced in the economy after deducting the cost of inputs or raw materials used, which is the same thing explained again. This is the main entry on the income side of the nation's accounting balance sheet, and from an economics perspective, it represents the supply side. मतलब हमने कितना दिया तो नेशन को उतना मिला. ठीक है. ये एक analysis है. This is essentially how it works. So you don't have to worry about it in a lot of detail. ये आना चाहिए. ये P के लिए बहुत important है. We now use a base year which is shifted from 4 to 5 to 11 and 12. This is very important for the prelims. And पहले हम फैक्टर कॉस्ट पे करते थे, अब हम बेसिक प्राइसेस पे करते हैं. एंड दिस बिकम्स द प्राइमरी मेजर फॉर आउटपुट अक्रॉस इकोनॉमीज वेरियस सेक्टर्स. उन्होंने बड़े प्यार से फॉर्मूला भी दिया था. जीवीए एट बेसिक प्राइसेस प्लस नेट टैक्सेस इज इक्वल टू जीडीपी. ठीक है. नाउ एक बचपन में कराया होगा इकोनॉमिक्स में. ठीक है. ये सिर्फ प्री के लिए पूछेंगे, ये आपको आता होगा. पी पी पी. ठीक है. फैक्टर कॉस्ट मार्केट प्राइस. यस ईशान. ठीक है. फैक्टर कॉस्ट मार्केट प्राइस याद आ रहा है ये? यस. ग्रॉस टू नेट, डोमेस्टिक टू नेशनल। यस, जब ग्रॉस से नेट जाते हैं तो क्या करना पड़ता है? यस, यू टू सबट्रैक्ट डेप्रिसिएशन। जब डोमेस्टिक से नेशनल जाते हैं तो क्या करना पड़ता है? यू माइट हैव टू ऐड और सबट्रैक्ट नेट फैक्टर इनकम फ्रॉम अब्रॉड। क्या बात है, सब सीबीएसई वाले रट के बैठे हैं। फीफा नहीं बेटा, एनएफआईए। यस, करेक्ट। और फैक्टर कॉस्ट से मार्केट प्राइस जाते तो क्या करते हैं? टैक्सेस ऐड करते हैं और क्या माइनस करते हैं? सब्सिडी माइनस करते हैं। यस और नो? वेरी गुड। बस कोई भी किधर भी जाना हो, जीडीपी एट एमपी टू जीएनपी एट एमपी, बेटा दिस इज गिवन इन एनसीईआरटी, इसलिए कहता हूं पढ़ना चाहिए। ओके, नो, पब्लिक अकाउंट कमिटी इज नॉट। ठीक है, क्लियर ऑन दिस? अंडरस्टूड? यस, क्लियर, गुड। इसके अलावा the last part I wanted to discuss, and this is important because agriculture is always important. Q important, and then how do you put it down in the context of things? Domestic to national is net factor income. Domestic मतलब physical territory of India, geographical territory of India. स्वदेश देखिए, स्वदेश में वो जाता है ना, वापस आता है, और net factor income है ना, that is basically that. Clear? Okay. So agriculture. The Union Cabinet has approved an amendment to the 65-year-old, ये सीधा सीधा मैंने लाइन उठाया ताकि आपको समझ में आए, from Essential Commodities Act, removing cereals, pulses, oilseeds, edible oil, onions and potatoes from the list of essential commodity. Clear on this? Okay, ठीक है, क्या हटा दिया? ये सब हटा दिया। It has also approved to remove restrictions on farmers selling their produce outside notified market areas. तुम किसी को भी बेच सकते हो, डायरेक्टली बेच सकते हो, no problem. The ordinance is called the Farming Trade Produce and Commerce Ordinance. You do not have to remember the name of this ordinance. All you need to know is there is a recent ordinance which was passed to open up agricultural marketing outside our agricultural marketing notified areas. Okay. नाउ वाइल बोथ, अब बहुत ये लीगैलिटी देखना, अगर एग्रीकल्चर स्टेट लिस्ट में है तो ये कैसे कर लिया आपने? यस और नो? अगर एग्रीकल्चर स्टेट लिस्ट में है तो ये कैसे कर लिया? एंड उसका आंसर उसी एडिटोरियल में दे रखा है। यू आर नॉट रेगुलेटिंग एग्रीकल्चर बट द सेलिंग ऑफ एग्रीकल्चरल गुड्स। ठीक है, सो वाइल एग्रीकल्चर एंड मार्केट्स आर स्टेट सब्जेक्ट्स, द सेंटर इज काउंटिंग ऑन द फैक्ट दैट ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स इन फूडस्टफ्स इज अ पार्ट। ओके, गुड। बस कितना मुश्किल था, घंटे भर में पूरा हो गया है ना। अब please stay put, some very good questions have been posted, I'll just have a look at it, of course. Shantanu, I made a video on the strategy post COVID, please एक बार देख लेना। Good afternoon मेरे यंगर। Okay, I will make sure that lecture 12 on rights and religion is uploaded on my end. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Thank you. Crash course is enough, सुरुचि, and वो पॉलिटी प्रीलिम्स प्रोग्राम में मैं से वो 15 मिनट्स का प्री में बस जितना रट के जाना उतना मैं दे रहा हूँ। ठीक है, हाँ रूपसा, last week there was an article on parliament being absent in action. It's actually a good question. Just pay attention to the same question. ठीक है, हाँ पायल आंसर सिटीजनशिप का आ जाएगा भाई, आ जाएगा कि वो दिस वाज रिटन बाय द हेड ऑफ पीआरएस माधव राव। यस, कि कोविड के टाइम पे हमको ई गवर्नेंस करना चाहिए, राइट? हमको वीडियो लेक्चर लेना, वीडियो सिटिंग करना चाहिए। कनाडा ने करा, यूके ने करा, सब कर रहे हैं। You can. This is a larger question on parliamentary efficiency, and one of the things that we talk about in parliamentary efficiency is, for example, attendance of MPs. Second, the quality of debates and discussions, and third, of course, is the frequency in which the sittings and the sessions happen. Right? This could be a part here, but because this was too small, so I didn't discuss it. अभी देखना थोड़े टाइम पे आएगा parliamentary reform अच्छे से, तो मैं बताऊँ। Strategy CSE 2021 is on a proper document on the Telegram channel. Okay. No, Vaishnavi, I don't think the dates of 2021 will go ahead. Let us see how it happens. ये तो भगवान को ही पता है, वो भी पता नहीं कौन है. Lieutenant Delhi, Governor of Delhi reversed CM's decision. Okay, so just give me time. थोड़ा सा दे दो कि इसमें हमने कैसे करा है, रिवर्स करा है कि नहीं करा है, because the decisions have to be taken in the name of the Lieutenant Governor here. Okay, and this could be resolved under certain excruciating circumstances. There's a legal provision to this. I will do this once we are done with the things in larger detail. Okay, Paras, I will. Taru, I will post the previous PPT also. Web have done. The significance is nothing but it's just a formality कि हम आना चाहते हैं. Utkarsh has started governance this month. I think probably next month. Yes, Saurabh, just give me time. Today's article about COVID में हमको समझ में आता है कि local self government को power देनी चाहिए. That's not just because of COVID. Local self government को generally power देनी चाहिए. That's also very important. ठीक है? Clear? All right. Today's article. हाँ भाई देवांश. Yeah, I don't know whether it will be helpful in controlling it or not. हाँ, PT 365 environment free radicals आप छोड़ सकते हैं आप. I'll get back to you on this, Himani. 2021 document पढ़ो प्राची. UNSC primary function is peace. Basic functions of Security Council. ठीक है? What are the add-on topics that can be read superficially? Bas, that's it. That's it. No problem. Mandeep, just get back to me personally. I'll get back to you on the rule of prominent judge because it's slightly complex. Its purpose is current affairs. That's what its purpose is. अभी theatre command बना ही नहीं है तो कौन बताएगा? But if it heads, then the chief of defense staff. Yes, credit rating agencies would be a larger question on financial assessment and rating. It's never too late, Anup. Yes, Ujjwal. Divya, absolutely. James Bond साहब ने सवाल पूछा है डिफेंस पे. Do they ask defense exercise in prelims? Perhaps yes. वो नहीं पूछा होता तो मैं क्यों कर रहा था बेटा? दिवास इतने सारे सवाल नहीं जवाब दे रहा मैं. टेलीग्राम कर लेना भाई. So that more private channels can also use, you can grow the sector basically. हाँ गगनयान लिख सकते हैं देवांश. ईमेल आईडी ये रहा बेटा. No, official languages are not asked, Nisha. You have to essentially make consolidated notes, Anisha, so the sources are in front of you. No, GVA notes don't have to be made. Just go back to your original eco theory notes and that's it. Nothing more. Yes, there's an overestimation, of course. 4-5% estimate दिखाया, कहाँ से दिखा दिया भाई? Current affairs, yeah, Nunal sir is the best. Nunal is the greatest when it comes to economics. Nunal को पूछो, है ना, वो सही कराते हैं, बिल्कुल बढ़िया कराते हैं वो, है ना? I've rarely seen somebody with such good content. Manal is great, है ना? Yes, Srini, I've done a gas leak this thing also. Mandeep, tonight. ऐसे प्री के पहले भी टेंशन मत लो. स्पेस फोर्स, वो तो नेटफ्लिक्स पे सीरीज है सिद्धार्थ. नीट का मैंने डिस्कस कर लिया था लास्ट के 10 मिनट में, बट आई स्टिल डू इट अगेन. सूरज, हल्क, आई सी द एंटायर एवेंजर्स इज हियर. आयरन मैन भी देखा था मैंने बीच में कहीं पे. You don't have to go through any specific month. बस एक रैंडम एडिटोरियल देख लो, कुछ अच्छा लगता है तो पढ़ लेना. नहीं भी पढ़ोगे डाउन टू अर्थ तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. मैन एंड एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है ही नहीं यार. एनिमल राइट्स होता है. गुड गवर्नेंस हैंडआउट. ओके अमन. Because private companies save costs. 2021 strategy देख लेना. चलो, great, done. Polity balance program इस वीक आ जाएंगे यार. 3-4 videos will definitely come this week. Editing चल रही है यार, है ना, तो we're just finishing it up. ठीक है. See you guys for next week's What a Week on Monday, and I'll try to keep the timing as 12:30. I'll let you know about the time tools, everyone. Tools. ये tools बड़ा सही है यार. सही है. ठीक है. Cool. So I'll get back to you guys on the Telegram channel as to when the next What a Week is. It's going to be on a Monday or a Tuesday. Until then, do take care and keep yourselves well. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye. See you. This time is perfect. All right, I'll take a poll on this. Thank you so much, guys. Bye. Take care and be safe. Thank you for such a good turnout.